painting looks like a cartoon again. If I just knew what color to use, my work would look realistic like everyone else's.
Yeah, the right colors are not going to fix your problem. I'm going to prove it to you and show you the easy trick that will make your work look more realistic. In the 25 years that I've been teaching painting and drawing, chicken! Rude. Anyway, in the 25 years that I've been teaching painting and drawing, one of the biggest hangups I've seen students have is the belief that if they just knew how to mix the perfect color, that would make their work look realistic. It's just not true, and I'm going to show you proof by walking you through this painting. If color is what was going to make your work look realistic, then this painting wouldn't look this good. All I'm using for this entire piece is titanium white and Mars black. There are two areas I need to focus on in order to create depth and realism in this painting. First is depth. I'm going to do this by having accurate perspective. You will see this when we get to the road especially, but I'm also going to be creating a somewhat out of focus background, and this is really going to draw that viewer in, increasing my details as I move my way closer to the viewer. As I build these background trees, I'm not painting the branches or the leaves. Your work would look pretty weird if you tried to do that. I'm instead creating the hint of trees. They're tree-like shapes. I keep my paint wet while I work, and I'll talk a little bit more about that trick with acrylics later, but this allows me to have a softer edge, making them look farther away. The second thing I'm doing is creating a realistic scene by focusing on my values. This is what is going to make your work look realistic and three-dimensional, no matter what colors you choose. Stop fussing over mixing the perfect color and focus on this, your values. As I move my way forward, I'm going to go darker and darker with my values. This allows the trees farther in the background to fade out into the distance. It's the same thing. The background would be lighter, fading into the sky, and the foreground gets darker and darker into those values. Values are all about getting your lights light enough and darks dark enough. My trees aren't perfectly drawn. My color is, well, non-existent. This is all about values. Another common misconception is that adding more detail will make your work look more realistic. Detail for the sake of detail isn't going to help. In many cases, it makes things look worse. You want to pay attention to where you should have soft edges versus where you should have that sharper detail. This is where choosing a good reference photo is important.
Well, I painted this from my imagination. It came straight out of my head.
We can tell. I don't know why so many beginners feel that painting from imagination without reference photos means that their work is better or more creative, when in reality it does the opposite. I used about 30 reference photos for this painting. The reality is, what my brain thinks a tree looks like, a road, a humpback whale, none of that really looks like those things if I'm not looking at a reference photo. It'll look like a cartoon drawn by a child. Even when you want to do something more surreal, you still want reference photos to guide you in creating realistic detail, and more importantly, to give you a good idea of your values. Before we get back to my main tip, if you want to follow along with this painting video, I have an over 4-hour long lesson where you can paint step by step with me. For as little as $6 a month, my students over at Patreon get access to over 400 painting and drawing lessons in multiple mediums. Let me help you take your work to the next level, like I have with thousands of other students. Back to my main tip for this video. In order for your work to look more realistic, you need these ingredients: an accurate drawing and accurate values. Pay attention to where things like the trees should have those softer, more out of focus areas versus the sharper edges you want as you move closer to the viewer. Beginners naturally lean towards putting more detail everywhere. This will make your work look less realistic, not more. More importantly, those accurate values. Get your darks dark enough and those lights light enough. This is what will add dimension and realism to your work. Choosing the perfect color just creates a cartoon. The shading, the highlighting, the shades in between will make all of the difference. Don't have the perfect blue? Don't matter. Close is close enough if your values are right. You're not trying to create a cartoon. Cartoons need that perfect exact color. You don't need that in a realistic painting. Your values are what matters. I can paint a tiger purple instead of orange and browns, and he'll still look realistic if my values are correct. It would just look like the tiger was under purple light. The fact that the black and white paintings can look just like photos is all the proof you really need to show you. It is not the color that will make your work look realistic. It's the values. Lights light enough, darks dark enough. Stop stressing about color, and if you want to stress about something, stress about those values. It's a much better thing to stress about. If you know values are something you struggle with, I want to encourage you to paint 10 pieces in just black and white. When all you have are values to focus on, you're going to start learning so much faster. And when you do go back to color, it's going to feel so much easier. Oh, good call, chicken. Let's show them. Now, I've actually been using a different print of the same case brand. I have dropped this phone so many times, it's actually really protected it well. Oh, look how pretty that is. Look at it, chicken. Chicken, where are you going? You can't quit, it's the middle of a work day. All right, you're hired, French fry. Are you having a hard time with your acrylics drying too fast? Sick of everyone telling you to just use a slow drying medium, but you know that stuff kind of sucks? I have a much easier and much cheaper alternative for you that only requires water. I mean, and the spray thing, but it's cheap, I promise. Save money and your sanity with my trick in this next video.